Today we are delighted to be joined by Sandy Maxwell-Forbes, Centre Director for the Great Tapestry of Scotland. We've come to Galashiels, here in the heartland of the Scottish borders, to meet Sandy in person and to see the tapestry up close in the purpose-built visitor centre. We can't wait to find out more. So thank you for joining us, Sandy.
Good morning, Emily.
So Sandy, when people hear of the Great Tapestry of Scotland, I think most people kind of conjure up an image of an ancient artefact, when in fact the tapestry is actually very modern and didn't start getting designed until, I believe, 2012. So can you tell me more about the inspiration and story behind the tapestry?
The inspiration behind this started with Alexander McCall Smith, and he was looking at the Preston Pans tapestry, and he was really inspired by it, and he thought, what better way to represent Scotland than having a tapestry about Scotland's history? So Alexander contacted Andrew Crummy, because Andrew had been behind, and his family behind, the Preston Pans tapestry.
Okay.
So he contacted Andrew and said, look, just seeing this amazing thing, would you be involved in a project where we will create the history of Scotland in a tapestry?
Yeah.
And Andrew was delighted. And then the next call that was made was to Alistair Moffat, the historian and writer. And again, Alexander said, would you be interested?
Yeah.
And he said, absolutely.
There you go.
The momentum and the excitement was starting to build up, that they were onto something amazing. And so after that, of course, Dorie Wilkie had been involved anyways as the head stitcher in various tapestries. Andrew contacted Dorie and said, look, I've got this amazing project, I'd like you to be the head stitcher and organise the stitching. And that was really the nucleus of this whole amazing project.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And so how did that team come together to kind of take 12,000 years of Scotland's history and kind of narrow it down into 160 panels then?
Well, I think it was very, very challenging for Alistair because, as you say, that's a lot of history to condense and put into what was, and at first it wasn't even 160 panels, it was much smaller.
Oh, okay.
And so what happened, Alistair was writing and choosing which areas that would really stand out as being part of Scotland's history to be proud of, and not perhaps so proud in some areas, as we know. And in the end, it just kept going, and he was writing, and then he was sending the writing to Andrew, and Andrew was creating the drawings, and the whole momentum became really exciting. And then it just went on and on. The next thing they know, there was 160 panels. And of course, what happened then was, it was down to, right now we need to create the panels. That was quite a challenge in itself. Who's going to do this? Who's going to lead it? Where are the people? How does it happen?
Yeah.
And the linen was chosen, the wool was chosen, and then Dorie had to find people to stitch.
Yeah.
She had a little place just outside Edinburgh, and she called it the Hub, and that's where essentially everybody came together to do.
Okay.
Now the drawings that Andrew created had to be traced onto the linen.
Yeah,
so
that
was
can't
very
have been
difficult.
easy. Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
No.
And if you can imagine, a light box tends to be quite a small thing.
Yeah.
So,
So to get one large
made,
enough, wow.
so
Yeah.
the light box could allow the tracing to then go onto the linen.
Yeah.
And from there, Dorie's task was to, once she'd identified, which was a big task, identified who the stitches were, what she then had to do was package up and from the hub and get the drawings and the wool out.
Yeah. So was it a lot of community groups then that, and how did, I guess, she go, contacting them and choosing which groups should be involved?
Well, what happened was, when you look at the panels, you can see that a lot of them are geographically representing a part of Scotland. So initially it was done by postcode.
Oh, okay.
How can we get people together by postcode? There was a lot of advertising done. Went through community groups, women's institutes, a lot of advertising. Would you be interested in getting involved in this project? And you can imagine pulling together 1,000 of them, that wasn't easy.
No.
But there are a huge amount. We're really excited about getting involved in it. So they came together, and they were coming together mostly by postcode. But as we all know, postcodes don't work very easily. I've been in that situation where the postcode's taken me somewhere, it's the other side of the river where I need to be.
Definitely.
So, they came together primarily by postcodes, but then they would involve members of the family and then their friends as well.
Yeah.
And the wonderful thing, as I say, they represent geographical areas. So, for example, the panel for Roslin Chapel would be about ladies who were done by a team of ladies who were in that area. Because what they could do was expand on the panel. Because the wonderful thing which Andrew did, was Andrew created the drawing, and it was primarily the centre of the tapestry. What he then allowed the stitchers to do was bring in their knowledge of the area. And Andrew laughs now. He says, when you've got 1,000 women on your back telling you you're getting it wrong, he says it's really hard work. It's quite funny listening to him regale these stories of these ladies saying, Andrew, you've got this absolutely wrong. That's not how that wool works, and that well works, and whatever. So it's quite amazing how they did come together to do that.
So then they were able to kind of add maybe to the outer.
So this is what they were able to do. They were able to add important parts that they knew the history of in their area. So they were able to add pieces into the tapestry. And there is something really unique in the panels as well. In the bottom corners of each of the panels, the stitchers were able to put in their mark. And by that I mean, some of them would call themselves the weavers or something, and they would have a little identity and brand in the corner. So they've made their mark on that panel. So if it was an existing community group, they could have incorporated their logo. Well, and I think that makes it feel so much more personal, and like you say, people can really take ownership then if it's the area that they know. Absolutely. And the other wonderful thing is, what they did do was they hid their own stories in there. So the tapestry has hundreds and hundreds of hidden stories. There was one lady, I heard a story, and when I met the stitchers, gradually over the period of time I've been on the project, they speak with such passion about what they've created. And when they saw this in the final home, they were so excited to think. They all thought it was going to end up in some church hall cupboard or something, and suddenly for this to be, an asset for Scotland has an element of wonderful pride for them. It's been tremendous for them to see this here. And as you say, you're absolutely right. So there was one lady, and she had a first grandchild, and she has put the initials of her grandchild, but then stitched over it. So somewhere hidden in a panel somewhere are their initials of a grandchild. But equally, there are serious stories as well. There are stories. There's a bit of a tragic story, and actually a very happy ending, I would say now in advance. One of our stitchers, her husband's helicopter went down in the North Sea. And you can imagine she was just, and the only thing she could do while she was waiting for news was just keep on stitching. It has that
absolutely.
And anyway, it all turned out wonderful. But now in the panel, the Fair Isle panel, there is a little tiny helicopter blade in the North Sea, and that's her part of the story of what her life was what was happening in her life at this time. And so those kind of stories are in there too. There have been births, deaths, divorce, marriages, everything, as you can imagine, of the period of time that it took. So they're all in there hidden.
Because I heard it was over 50,000 hours worth of stitching. So from kind of the initial, the linen being sent out to the stitchers to all of the panels coming back in, how long did that take roughly?
It would take quite some time, and we've heard stories of people taking the panels on holiday with them, sitting on an aeroplane stitching, and their fellow passengers saying, "What are you doing?" "Oh, well, actually, I'm creating this tapestry for Scotland." And out the stories would come. So they've travelled. Some of the panels have travelled around the world and sat on beaches. And now, considering how we really look after it, when I think back, gosh, this panels have been on a beach. It really gives me a little bit of a fright, considering the care we take of it now.
Well, and it must have been so difficult to keep track of what was going on.
Dorie was amazing. Dorie Wilkie was absolutely amazing. She pulled the whole thing together in terms of the logistics of the communities who were stitching. She has wonderful stories of going to meet, and she travelled, her and her husband Tom, they travelled most of Scotland, and they would stay with people, they would sit and help them. There were people who've never stitched before who really wanted to be part of the project. And so Dorie was there teaching them how to do it. So it really has been a wonderful community, probably one of the UK's largest community projects in existence. and it brought people together. And what I've loved as well, now we've opened the building and the tapestry, she is in her permanent home. The stitchers keep coming to have a look. And we had a couple of open days where they were the first to come in and see it. And they were just almost tearful at, you know, what they had created and where it's ended up.
Well, and I think if you're just at home stitching away on a small piece of the tapestry, but then to see it come to life and all together, then I think until you kind of see it like that, I can imagine how overwhelming that would feel.
I mean, even myself, you know, I'd worked on this project for so long in lockdown, you know, hard hat and boots kind of thing, and didn't really see anybody, you know, small numbers. And the day the tapestry went up, I kind of had to walk away and sort of think, gosh, this is overwhelming. You know, it's so beautiful. And to finally come into its home, you know, after when I joined here, this was just a field full of weeds. And the building went up. But really, there were two milestones for me, I think. The first one was when the professional removals brought the tapestry out of storage, and the big lorry turned up. I was sort of like quite breathless, you know, like, gosh, the tapestry's in there. And so I was quite overwhelmed then. And then the day it went up, I had Dorie here as well. And we put the tapestry up, and that was the second time I felt overwhelmed by just what had been achieved. By so many amazing people, from the architects of the building, you know, right back to Alexander McCall Smith. Without him, this wouldn't have happened. You know, it's his inspiration, and it, as you can imagine, which you can see, it's really turned into something quite stunning for the international stage for Scotland.
Oh, absolutely, and I think there's nothing else like it to tell Scotland's story, is there? So,
and we kind of use that. We've said, you know, Scotland's story starts here. And it does. You know, whatever you want to know about Scotland's history, here it is. And education, children are loving it. It's bringing their lessons to life. You know, they can visually see. And our education office has been tremendous, creating programs around the tapestry. You know, today you've come to learn about Queen Victoria. Let's go see the panel. And can you see? Oh, and there's the dog, and there's the, you know, and it's quite amazing how they get engaged.
So is a lot of the educational programming about Scotland's history, or kind of also about textiles, or a bit of a mix of both then?
There's going to be a mix of both. A lot is about history, but of course not just history, because within the tapestry you can find geography, you can find so many different subjects. So we have a curriculum. The programs we have tie into Scotland's curriculum. So teachers recognise that they're coming here, and it's addressing you know, what the program is for the children. And so we're focused on, obviously, history, lessons for children, and geography, or whatever is required on the curriculum. But also textiles are really important, and we have a wonderful relationship with Heriot-Watt University, and we have a couple of projects with them as well, and that is around textiles. It makes sense. You know, this is the home of textiles.
So I studied at Heriot-Watt, and studied woven textile design there. So to now come back to the town and see something like this be celebrated here is really special. Before the tapestry found its permanent home here in Galashiels, sections of the tapestry did a tour right round Scotland, and that's how I first came to know it, was when it was in the Verdant Works up in Dundee. So obviously it got its tour around Scotland, but how was Galashiels chosen as the permanent home for the tapestry then?
Well, there were a lot of towns that really wanted the tapestry as part of, but Galashiels has a regeneration project and was deemed to be the most appropriate place because of the history of textile industry, and because of regeneration. Then this was decided as the home of the tapestry.
Well, and like you say, being such a textile hub, it feels like it just fits, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So when the centre opened, then how did they go about kind of creating a building specific for showcasing such a beautiful work? And
well, the architects were really quite inspiring, and you know, all they knew is, well, we have 160 panels, but how do we display them? And one of the most amazing things about the building is you see the ceiling. So the architects, Page Park, I thought were quite inspiring. If you look around the town centre, people, when they walk, look down. It's a habit, we all do it, and nobody looks up. And it was deliberate to leave each corner of the building to have natural light and windows. And if you look out of each window in each corner, you'll see that Galashiels is in a valley. So you'll see green and you'll see hills. And that's purposely to bring the outside in, you know, to feel the wonderful colours of the outside to bring into the tapestry. And if you, as I indicated, if from here you look in the corner over that side, you can see right down Channel Street. And you'll see lots of points and dormers and roof spires. In that corner we've got MacArts, and again it's a spire. So all around Galashiels, if you come in by train and look, there are points and spires and dormers everywhere. So that inspired the ceiling to fit into what was, you know, already these shapes which were in the town. And of course we have the post office, and that I thought was wonderful, that we have the B-listed building next door. The post office was a building of civic importance, and to do anything other than reuse it would have been awful. So we have, what they've done is they've created two link corridors going into the post office. So we have the two buildings sitting together,
fantastic.
old and new. And I think they sit perfectly.
No, that's great. And so just 5 months after opening, you received a 5-star rating, so the highest possible rating for the visitor centre. So how did that feel?
It was tremendous. You know, I remember getting the call, and Visit Scotland were telling me, and I thought, I'm not sure they phrased that properly. Do you mean we got it or we didn't get it? There was a little bit of that going on. Anyway, we got the 5-star, and I was just so delighted. I think it's a reflection on the participation of the teams that were involved. Personally, here at the centre, we strive for 5-star excellence all the time, not only in the building, but the service that people get, the customer service. I'm very proud of the team, the visitor officers. Training is important to us, and we are very much engaged in training. And the staff, the team are great. You know, there's a lot of good compliments about the team. I think that makes a place. You know?
Absolutely.
So, no, it's been a reflection really of the teamwork by everybody involved. So that was an accreditation. I was very happy to take.
And in such a short space of time as well. It's fantastic. And so obviously the panel, like we said, has lots of hidden stories, and at ScotlandShop we love tartan, so would we find tartan in any of the panels?
Absolutely. I think you'll find one is actually called Jock, and he's in there, so no, we will find tartan if you go around.
Well, that's our challenge. We're off to have a look. Exactly.
Scotland. You know, it's essential, isn't it, really?
Well, we like to think so.
We have our own Scottish tartan.
There you
tapestry
go.
Tartan.
Amazing.
So
Fantastic.
that's downstairs.
Oh well, look forward to seeing that too. So, and do you have a favourite panel then? I'm sure that's a very difficult question.
I'm really, you know, dreadful because I know I'm one of those, you're my favourite, and then the next day, don't tell Leah, but you're my favourite, you know, I'm one of those people. And every day I look at the tapestry and every day I see something different as to why it's now my favourite. But I think the vibrancy, I really like the vibrancy, and there's one which is the Jacobites, and I love how the design of that, instead of just being a line of soldiers, the design has created a circle, and the red of the coats really jumps out, you know, and it's beautiful. So I like different panels for different reasons, whether they represent, you know, the colours and the artwork that's gone into it, or whether the subject matter. So I'm a bit disloyal to 160 of them. I lie to them daily, you know.
Well, and I know that it was important not only to kind of depict important historical moments of Scotland and historical figures, but also kind of the everyday life of Scotland as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a wonderful one of the, and when I saw this one, I was picking retail items for the shop. And there's one for the steamy, you know, the Glasgow steamies. And she's lovely. I absolutely adore her. You know, she's a real stoic Glaswegian mum. But hanging up on the line is a teddy bear by his ear, and he's teeny. And I thought, I love him. So immediately I picked out this bear. And that's it. We sell them in the shop now. And you know, you just find these wonderful little things. But it is. It's a lot about life in Scotland, or the clearances, ordinary day life in Scotland, as well as historical events.
Fantastic. And so you yourself, Sandy, with the name Maxwell-Forbes, you know, two strong Scottish names. So have you always celebrated your Scottish heritage and sort of clan story?
Absolutely, yeah, totally. And you know, I am one of those people who just take it for granted that I haven't done a lot of research.
No.
You know, the name is there and that's it. But I think Scotland is an amazing country. You know, it's a small, powerful country.
Absolutely.
It's just, everything about it is just stunning. I live right down in the borders now, in the Yarra Valley, and the best part of my day on the journey home. My journey home is just looking around to see the natural beauty that I live in. And you know, it's unheard of probably in a lot of big cities. But we have a lot here in the borders. We really do. It's quite astonishing.
Well, and I think that's a big part of being a company based here in the borders, and obviously you living here. It's often a forgotten area, so to see projects like this and opportunities for people to come and visit the centre, but then the surrounding area as well is fantastic. And
I think you know, we need to do more to raise the profile. You could come to the borders and you could do a 2-week holiday. And people don't really understand what is here. You know, marketing that and getting that out is important. I think Visit Scotland doing a great job. So there's a lot of organisations and agencies doing the work. But we really need to spread that word more and help people understand what we have here. And you know, the quality of life is tremendous.
Fantastic.
And the space, that's what's really special.
Well, especially during lockdown, I think we really appreciated that we could go and, you know, still go for a walk and you know, whereas a lot of people were kind of trapped in cities. And it felt so bad for that.
I felt so sorry for people who, you know, didn't have a garden. There was an apartment, maybe third floor or something. What do they do? I felt, you know, I'd be listening to it on the news, but I'd be popping up my morning break in the coffee, looking in the valley, and I thought, gosh, you know, to not have this would be hard.
Well, and of course your lockdown experience must have been quite different, trying to get this centre open.
Very different. You know, I have images, pictures of me, which are really quite bizarre. You know, there's a big mask and a big hat, and then big boots, and it was cold, and I had big gloves on. You know, I have really good memories there. Very good memories. It was quite tough.
Oh, I can imagine.
You know, open building and no heating. It's quite tough, but it was probably something I would never regret, and I'm really proud to have been a part of.
Absolutely.
And taken that journey.
Well, it would have been a big challenge at the best of times, but to throw a pandemic into it, you know, it just really shows the achievement of bringing this all together is fantastic. And so you have a lot of former experience in both business, you're an entrepreneur, you're even on Dragon's Den. So with all of your previous experience, what was it about this project that drew you to come here and lead the centre? Gosh,
I think firstly it was, well, you know, I saw the tapestry in New Lanark several years before. And I was approached by somebody who said, I've heard there's a project and I think it might suit you because it's very varied. You know, there are lots of components of the project. I think you'd like it. What do you think? And I said, what is it? Great Tapestry Scotland. Oh, I've seen that. And then when I learned it was going to be taking it right from, you know, it's creating a home for it, delivering it, and then creating a market for it. I felt that was quite exciting. But what really appealed to me, it was going to be here in the borders, and I thought this has to work. It's got to work. It's in the borders. This is going to be tremendous for the borders. And so I was excited by that, and I just decided I had my name on it. Really.
It just felt right then.
It felt totally right. And I tell you, it was quite funny because when I went to see the tapestry at New Lanark, I was so impressed with it. So I bought the coffee table book, you know, so I could go through it. And I had to do one interview online, and so I was sitting there and I thought, gosh, I've got to do an interview online. This is awful. This is horrible. And it wasn't because of the pandemic. It was because that's how they were just doing candidates, you know. And I thought, how shall I open? Make an impact when you open as you do. And so I opened it. I said, yes, my name is Sandy Maxwell-Forbes, and I like the tapestry so much, I bought the book, you know, and I thought, why did I do that? I don't know, but I just wanted to get across my passion.
Exactly, I mean, I don't know how else you could do that. So.
Difficult to do, you know, when you say, right, do a 3-minute why you want the job. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it obviously paid off.
Well,
so
there we go. Here I am.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for telling us all about the tapestry, and we're about to go and explore it for ourselves.
Super.
So yeah, we'll look out for some of those
Look
details.
out for sequel stories.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, and I'm
Thank
sure
you.
Everyone will be delighted to come and visit. So, what is the address? How do they come and find the centre?
Well, have a look at our website, greattapestryofscotland.com. Have a look there, you'll be able to find all the details. We are open 7 days a week.
Fantastic.
And we have a wonderful cafe. We have a wonderful temporary exhibition as well at the moment. That's Grace and Perry.
Fantastic.
And please do come and join and have a look. And you know, I think one of the most wonderful things is people say, it's much more than I expected.
Yeah. Well, I think, even knowing what I was coming to, as soon as you walk in, you're like, oh wow, this is really special.
It has a wow factor.
Yeah,
when you come
absolutely.
Up the staircase,
Yeah.
That was not what I expected.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Emma. Thank you.